In one word, how would you describe the past few years?
Bonkers.
I would say in two, super bonkers.
Yeah,
I'll take
sure.
your bonkers and I'll double down.
I don't blame you.
Obviously, we have seen a ton of changes on the search front, but I think we're also seeing a lot of changes in buyer behavior that are impacting our strategy across channels.
For sure. At this point, we're seeing people check Gmail, Spotify, YouTube all before breakfast, right? Like it's their attention is scattered. And so we're trying to figure out like, how do we build these content strategies to reach them where they are?
For the people at home who are like, omni-channel, what?
Yeah.
What's an omni-channel content strategy?
It's moving from like the playbook we used to run, right? Which is like conduct the keyword research, develop the blog post, optimize that, rank, drive traffic, et cetera, to moving to multiple channels where your audience is spending your time.
Let's talk about how we're actually doing this at HubSpot, because you've really led the charge on this over the past few years.
Yeah, it came down to like, one, we saw the headwinds in search and the traffic coming in, but two, we knew consumers were going different places. Just by like talking to our customers, they're saying, I'm listening to podcasts every week. Oh, I go to YouTube for tutorials. And it's like, once you start to hear those trends, those are signals where it's like, we probably got to change how we're approaching things. So I think we've started to build a new system.
I remember back in 2022, looking at where our conversions were coming from and seeing that content from people within the HubSpot ecosystem, our academy professors, our newsletter writers. That was the content that was really starting to resonate with the audience, and the stuff that was more generic and more brand voicey, that stuff was already starting to lose some of its resonance. 2022 is when you introduced the creator program, right?
It is, yeah. So we launched the creator program to be able to partner with folks who were seeing a ton of that traction. So there's the channel piece, right? Where it's like our customers are on all these different channels, but then it's like, well, who are they actually following? They're not following brand accounts, right? Maybe some, but they started to follow other people, practitioners. And we were like, okay, well, who can we partner with in the market who has people's attention, who has an audience? And so the creator program was built for that exact piece. Can we work with the podcasters, the Substack writers, the YouTubers who are building an audience in the B2B space? And then we borrow from their playbooks for our own content strategies.
If someone's watching this and right now they've been really focused on one or two channels, then what's your recommendation on how they start to diversify?
I talked to my team about this, but it's like optimize for the overlap. And what I mean by that is, what are the channels that LLMs trust, which is what you and I are working on? And then also, where does your audience spend their time? Like,
I
where's
think that's
their
really
attention?
important. I would actually flip the order of that. I would say, where does your audience spend their time? And then if you can also get coverage with LLMs, all the better.
For sure. So the overlap's important. And I do think like, when you say multi-channel, it can be scary, especially like I've done some advisories for small businesses and they're like, what are you talking about? 3, 4, 5 channels. For any business, I think it's like, okay, what's your core channel? What's your anchor channel? And then what are the, like maybe 2, 3, if you have the resources where your audience spends their time.
Okay.
So the way that we're starting to position this at HubSpot in particular is like YouTube could be our anchor. And we're like, okay, we're going to do YouTube content really well for that platform. And then we're going to figure out, okay, what are the other 2 channels where our audience spends their time? And can we take the YouTube content we're making and bring it in new formats to those channels? So I think you're 3 channels max, especially for a small business, but you're going to have to perfect and invest in more than one.
It sounds so simple, you know, YouTube is going to be the channel that we invest in, but how did we know that YouTube was the right channel in the first place?
For us, like we started in the sales vertical on podcasting because we know they're in the car, they're on the go, and they're at the gym, whatever it is. So the podcast was actually like the anchor for a while.
Okay.
And then from there, we were like, okay, where else do they spend a lot of their time? LinkedIn. Social selling, LinkedIn DMs, prospecting. And so we were like, okay, well, the first 2 channels we're going to invest in for that audience are podcasts and LinkedIn. And we created the Science of Scaling media brand for sellers. And we started with a pod and got some traction there. We got that content on LinkedIn. And it all starts with just talking to your audience, right?
Okay.
Like, where are you spending your time?
So step 1, talk to your audience.
Yep.
Where are you spending your time?
Yep.
What apps do you use? What websites do you use?
Yeah. And if you're a bigger company, you can use a tool like Qualtrics and do like a large survey. And then if you're a smaller company, like I've worked with folks, you just get a list of 10 customers and shoot them an email or call them up and be like, hey, like, What are your favorite shows? What channels do you use? Just to get a sense of their media consumption habits.
Who are you learning from?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds very attainable. Once you've picked your 3, how do you decide how much to invest in each and what type of content are you creating?
Yeah. You do debate internally. I would say like you have to figure out where do we want to spend most of our time and resources? Where's the biggest upside? So if we go back to YouTube, for example, I'm a big advocate for YouTube, especially if your audience is there. One is your audience tells you they spend time there, but 2, second largest search engine.
Yeah.
Right. They just passed Disney as the top streaming platform in the US.
Wow.
They've been reported on as the top podcasting platform. So there's discoverability there.
Yeah.
So if YouTube is your anchor, video is also the hardest thing to produce. And so if you put your resources into video, there's long tail effects from that where it's like, okay, I created one video on YouTube. I did it extremely well. It's performing well. And it's a 10-minute video. You probably have 60 minutes of video to get down to that 10 minutes. You have a transcript that you can use for blogs or newsletters or social. There's a lot of assets you can create off of that video. So I'm an advocate for going like video first and then bringing that to the other channels because text-based content is easier to produce.
Right. Well, it makes a lot of sense. You can start with video and then turn it to other assets. Whereas if you start with text, it's a lot harder to work backward and turn it into other types of multimedia.
As we're talking about multi-channel strategies, one thing we want to do is make sure you have access to our new research report. We talked to HubSpot's research team and we surveyed 300 marketers about their multi-channel strategies. What strategies are they running? What tactics are they implementing? And what are the ROI from those strategies? You can check out the QR code and get those insights in addition to the playbooks we're going to run through.
Okay, so tell me about this anchor asset concept, because I think it's a really interesting one. And I think it's one that you and your team have perfected.
You and I have talked about like the need for expertise and data and original thought in your content, really no matter the platform. The challenge with that is like if you need original ideas and thoughts for your newsletters and your LinkedIn posts and your YouTube videos and your podcasts, it's unattainable for most teams.
Overwhelming.
Super overwhelming.
Expensive.
And so we've been implementing this anchor playbook where you'll create one long form asset. The best example I have is Marketing Against the Grain. So that's our media brand for marketers to CMOs talking about the future of marketing and AI implementation. They'll do an interview for their YouTube episode. That interview may be 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, but you're getting a long transcript from 2 experts in the field. And in that conversation, they're talking about strategies, tactics, tools, all the information that you're going to need for your content assets on other channels. So you get the transcript and then you get the cut for YouTube because that's the primary channel, the anchor we're investing in. You can get the transcript and the raw footage directly to your other teams. So can you work with your blog writer or your offer writer and say, here's the transcript from our latest episode. Can you create a new post that's optimized for Google's e-guidelines or for AEO? Can we create a new utility asset or offer based on the insights from this episode? Can we do a clip or a cut down or even a graphic asset that you're going to use on LinkedIn? So you're taking the anchor and that 45 minutes of conversation with 2 experts and turning that into a full campaign or distribution plan.
So you're recycling across your ecosystem so you get the most bang for your buck possible from every single piece of content.
And we call it remixing. So you can remix the content for the other channels.
Yeah, that's probably a better descriptor for what you're doing. Yeah. You're taking the essence of something and then you're making it right for the platform.
Yep, you have to. It's the only way it's going to perform.
That's all well and good if you have a bunch of folks on your marketing team, which we do. But what if you don't? What if you're a 3-person shop?
I have a friend who works for an agency in upstate New York, and he's able to produce a video podcast, a newsletter, and social content on LinkedIn with him and a contractor.
Whoa.
And the way you're able to do it at this point is there's so many tools. HubSpot has the remix tool.
Content remix. We know it. We love it.
Big fan. We love Riverside. Riverside's a great tool for like remote recording and high def and getting that automated transcript.
Would you use Riverside if we brought like a guest on the pod? We would use that and then we would take that video asset. That would be our anchor and we would remix it.
Yeah. If we have a guest on, right, we'll have them log into a Riverside link. They'll record remotely. it's going to be in high def, we'll automatically get that transcript that we can then pass to our teams to remix off of. So I think that small teams at this point, like AI can be your assistant, your content editor, your content assistant. I use assistant on purpose because it's not copy and pasting or remixing or using the exact language that the AI wants you to use. It's there to help you take a piece of content, reformat it, and then iterate on that until you get it to where you want. And that's where taste comes in.
What about some other brands? Who else is doing this really well?
I would say one brand in our space that I admire and take a look at is Ahrefs. We love the tool itself, but they're doing a fantastic job on their YouTube channel.
Yeah.
They've expanded into a podcast. You see the podcast content on LinkedIn. So they're going that multi-channel approach. Yeah. I'm assuming they're using some of the tools we're talking about today because you have a small team and the host. The other brands I get inspiration from tend to either be publishers or creators. I think they do content better than anyone.
Yeah.
And creators in particular are small teams, right? Like they're independent publishers or entrepreneurs. They may have a team of 3 or 4 contractors that are helping them. So we start to look at like, how do they create that anchor asset? And then how are they remixing it for their audience? Because they seem to be attracting all the folks on social, on Substack, on these other channels.
I think what creators do extremely well is they understand the mores and the idiosyncrasies and the unspoken rules or expectations of each channel, and they format their content and what they're talking about to those channels. And I think we're saying that that is a best practice, really a principle of doing multi-channel well.
Oh, for sure. And I think like all the AI tools that we use, we train them on those details. So you need them to understand what does well on LinkedIn, what does well as a blog post, what's the structure the content needs to take. So you're not just like randomly using Claude or GPT and taking whatever it puts out. You're actually training it on the formats that do well. And then you're feeding good, high performing examples back into that knowledge base.
Are you talking about Evolve as part of the marketing playbook?
Yeah. The thing in the content game is you're always on, right?
Yeah.
Like we are publishing content daily. So it's important to understand, like, do the channel algorithms change? What do our audience preferences look like? You have to constantly evolve. We've also talked about like, how do I rank? How do I get cited? How do you like think about those two and that overlap?
There are a few places that we know LLMs are training and heavily citing. And the good news is those also tend to be the places that humans are spending a lot of time. And that's not coincidental, because LLMs need fresh sources of information and they want to train on real human opinions. That's how they can make the best recommendations and give the best content to folks who are actually using answer engines. And so those places are Reddit, YouTube, Quora, Wikipedia, LinkedIn. Google especially uses LinkedIn to train its LLM.
Yeah.
And so if you are already creating content for those spaces because your buyers are there, well, guess what? You're also creating content for LLMs.
Right.
And that's how you're going to get the most bang for your buck out of your multi-channel strategy.
Okay.
So let's say you have a brand advocate. Mm-hmm. They don't know they're a brand advocate, but they're really passionate about your brand and they say something really nice about your brand on Reddit. Yep. Well, all the humans who read that comment, they're going to think, oh, okay, I want to know more about HubSpot.
Good endorsement.
Good endorsement, right. Feels very genuine, feels very authentic because it is. And then when an LLM trains on that content, it's going to take that recommendation and that's going to reinforce that your brand is a good brand.
Last thing too, I think it's important. You mentioned that as like an earned like endorsement you get. It's like, we think about that from an owned perspective. Like when we're doing our content strategy, it's like, where do we want to be placed? Where's our audience spending the time? And those two together end up actually providing a ton of value and generating more of that citation and that traffic for your brand.
Okay, so we've been talking pretty generally, but I imagine our audience is kind of hungry to know this works because it is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
So tell us, what have we seen after implementing an omni-channel strategy?
If I isolate it down to like one content strategy we run, which is marketing against the grain, their audience is up 148% year over year.
Whoa.
So you have the YouTube channel as the anchor. It's available on Spotify through the RSS feed. Mm-hmm. We have blog posts from those hosts and they get the byline. We have offers available that are marketing against the grain branded. And so a small team, right? You're talking 3 or 4 people operating that brand, have been able to grow it significantly. And we still see a ton of traction.
That's really impressive because it is not a 2-year-old podcast. They've been doing it for a few years now.
It is. That's the other thing is like, this was part of the old playbook is like the commitment to long-term. Like if you're going to do owned content and multi-channel, you can't expect to see results in 3 to 6 months. Like if we're standing something up new, we just launched a new YouTube channel recently. When we're doing our forecasts and talking to leadership, we're like 9 months. 9 months, we'll start to see some results, and then you're going to believe in this approach and then continue to build on that. But I think that's critical for folks is like going into this, knowing it's a long-term brand building and demand play.
And if you want to know a little bit more about omni-channel strategies, where should our audience go?
We just partnered with HubSpot's research team at HubSpot Media. We surveyed 300 marketers about their multi-channel strategy. So we've talked to you about how we do it. We wanted to see it's that common in the industry. So we got the results from that. It breaks down their channel strategies, their tactics, the ROI from that. So there'll be additional insights in the link in the description.
We have reached our final segment. It is the last word where we share our spicy takes about marketing, and we only have 30 seconds to do it, which is a fun little challenge. Are you ready, Kyle?
I'm ready, but I think I might change this one on the fly. Ooh. It kind of came up during our discussion.
I am really excited. Okay, you've got 30 and go.
Your employees need to stop being afraid of being on camera.
Oh.
One of the things that we've started to invest in is our people at HubSpot. Mm-hmm. We have a podcast hosted by a CMO. Mm-hmm. We have a sales show hosted by a former CRO.
We have field notes.
We have field notes. And at this point, it's like people want to hear from practitioners. They want to know what's working.
Yeah.
And so I've talked about this before. I love borrowing from the creator playbook. Don't be afraid. Put yourself out there. Share your experience. A lot of people can learn from it.
I will say, Kyle, I think being on camera is hard. If we've learned anything from this experience, terrifying. And I think we've both done some speaking before. So I understand why people are scared.
I do. I agree with you.
But just start. See what happens.
Start. I promise you people will respect your opinion if you know what you're talking about.
I like it. Okay. You ready for mine?
Let's
do
it.
My last word?
I got you timed.
If you are just using Claude and ChatGPT for text gen and you're not doing AI coding, you're falling behind. Ooh. I think everyone at every company should be figuring out how to use Claude Skills, ChatGPT, coding. Like they are so easy to use. All you have to do is describe what you are trying to accomplish and the tool will help you do it. Yeah. And if you're not, you're really not getting like anywhere close to the true power of these AI tools.
Well done.
That might have been my first actual on 30. All right, y'all, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Field Notes, where we break down what's happening in marketing.
We'll see you next time.